In Cyberpunk 2077, fashion is extremely important, and today we're going to be talking about what type of looks you could expect and why it's important. This is LaserBolt, and welcome to today's video, guys. We are getting closer and closer to the release of Cyberpunk 2077. I am really excited. I hope you guys are as excited as I am because this game is going to be amazing. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the fashion aspect of the game and what type of fashion can we expect out of the game, and also how this will tie importantly into the character you decide to pick and who you decide, what path you decide to pick, whether you decide to go corporate, street kid, or nomad. So today we're going to be breaking that down. But before we do, I do want to remind you guys about our Cyberpunk 2077 giveaway. To enter, it's super easy. All you got to do is drop a comment and a like in the comment section down below. But most importantly, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications and you have it set to all. The reason why this is important because the more comments you do on Cyberpunk 2070 videos that we upload, the more entries you will have. So good luck to everybody that's participating. Don't forget, guys, we stream live on Twitch every single day, so stop by and hang out. Our Twitch link is down below. And speaking of fashion, guys, if you haven't had a chance to check out the LaserBolt wear, highly recommend you guys check it out. We have some really good stuff, so make sure you check out our store. Link is down below. So now let's talk about the fashion aspect of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but this game is mostly correlated with the 80s and 90s. Now, the reason why this game is correlated between the 80s and 90s is because this game was created around that time. So around the 80s and 90s. Now, so around this time, there was a thing in America where a lot of people had different sets of trends. And one of the trends that they had was called cyber gods. Now, cyber gods were people who love computers, but they were very cyberific, I would say. And this is where we see the rise of certain movies coming around in the 80s, certain movies that came out in the 90s as well. Another thing that was extremely popular in the 80s and 90s was neon signs. I think that was like the revolutionary era when neon signs actually became a thing. And this has a heavy influence when it comes to the game. Now that you kind of get the concept and the feel that they're trying to go with the game and the vibes, they actually have to bring this into the future because remember, the game is set in 2077 and most of the ideas and concepts are coming from the 80s and 90s. So how exactly do they go and transform this, and how do they make fashion to become important? Well, there are two sets of categories found in Cyberpunk 2077. When I say categories, I mean sections of where they took different inspirations from and transferred it into the game. Number one, of course, is the economical aspect. As you guys know, there's rich people and there's poor people, right? So there are going to be a different variants of fashion for the people who are in the corporate, and you have your street kids who are pretty much people that live in the cities, but aren't so don't have that much money. Now the nomads are kind of out of the city, so we're not really kind of concentrating on them per se for right now. But they are considered to be poor because they live in the outskirts. So there's technically two sets of of type of monetary influence here when it comes to fashion. You actually either have the rich fashion or you have the poor aspect of the fashion. So how exactly do these two go hand in hand, and why is it important for you to know about the fashion in the game, right? So the reason why it's important is because depending on who you pick is going to give you the option to actually purchase more items or to get more your more clothes depending on who you go with. So if you go with a corporate aspect, of course you're going to have a lot of money, but everything else is going to be expensive, right? So clothes are going to be more expensive if you want to get a suit. Now if you are a street kid or a nomad, yes, you could go ahead and purchase cheaper type of clothes, and this is going to give you a vibe. Now whenever you guys are walking in the street, remember, in the street there's a thing called street cred, and street cred is extremely important in this game. Is basically kind of determine how you how you're perceived from the outside. Now remember, the perceiving aspect of the game is extremely important due to the fact that this is going to give you access to, if you find an NPC and you're trying to buy a gun off of him, if you don't look appropriate, if you don't look like like you have the money to actually be able to purchase that gun, they might sway away from you and not even sell you the gun. So you got to take all of this stuff into account because there is a huge social aspect in the game that not a lot of people are talking about, but there actually is, and that is the second one that I want to talk to you about the social aspect. So, social aspect is very important within the game. It's one of the key fundamental portions of the game, and it is what actually puts the game. It's kind of stands out from the rest of the games that we currently have right now, due to the fact that the social aspect of the game is extremely important because that's going to determine how you're perceived by other people. So, like, let's say you are a street kid, right? And you don't steal cars, you don't do nothing illegal, you're just chill. But if you're dressed a certain way, you're gonna be perceived by the NPCs a certain way. So that's why fashion is extremely important in this game, and it's something that's not really talked about too much. But they did do an update to recently, where they spoke a little bit about fashion, and they talked about how they got their inspiration. And social aspect was one of the biggest inspirations they actually talked about, because they said that they put so much detail and so much thought into how people are going to perceive you, or I wouldn't say people, but like how the NPCs in the game are going to perceive you socially. That's going to allow them to determine if they should do business with you, if they shouldn't do business with you. So there is a lot of aspects that's going into the game and making the game really, really interesting, because we really haven't had a game that kind of bounces off the the way we're dressed, right? So I mean, usually when we play a game, it's like, oh, we see something like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? We'll pick it up and buy it. But in this particular game, it's extremely important to dress accordingly to whatever you're trying to accomplish or whatever you're trying to do. It's going to be really interesting to see how most of us decide to go with, what type of fashion we decide to wear. Do we want to go with something more like, edgy, or do we want to go with something more, a little bit more classic, or, something more, kind of like edgy, not classy type of thing, type of vibe. So it's going to be very important how that plays out. But I want to know from you guys, though, what do you think about this concept that fashion is going to be extremely important in the game, and it's going to take a centerpiece of how people perceive you? I do want to know that. I do want to know that answer to that, because I want to know if you guys like that, and if you do you feel that's going to influence you into pick different clothes than you normally would if you're playing the game? I do want to know that, because it's kind of interesting how they're putting this game together, and how they're making fashion a very important staple of the game, as far as the way NPCs are able to perceive you, and what type of business dealings you're actually able to do. It's something very interesting, and something I kind of wanted to get from you guys. Now, talking about the 80s and 90s also influence, I did mention that they also did a lot of kind of like uniform type of clothes, because around that time, I guess uniforms and were extremely important, right? So it was either you had like a combat uniform, where you had a lot of jewelry. There was a lot of extreme sports. That's when extreme sports got started. So there's a lot of like that BMX type of movement. You got the camo, and you also have the neon sign. So kind of similar to what's going on currently right now in the fashion industry. Kind of like the way fashion is evolving right now. We have a lot of camels stuff. We have a lot of neon stuff. So it's very similar to what we have right now, and it's kind of interesting the way the game portrayed that. But like I said, I do want to know from you guys, though. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of how much fashion is extremely important in Cyberpunk 2077? If you like it, and if you feel that's going to change the way you approach the game, let me know that in the comment section down below. Don't forget, guys, if you want to stay up to date to everything Cyberpunk 2077, make sure you guys keep it locked on this channel. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Check us out on Twitch, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.